I don't know if I have too much of a message of hope. I mean, to anyone that's experienced any kind of like loss, whether that's financial or people in their life, throughout COVID, that it's obviously a feel for that, but it's also um, in a way, it's like you kind of sometimes you can maybe like learn things in that kind of moment where it's like for me, like when I mentioned before, I kind of rediscovered my passion for drumming quite a bit because I had a bit more time to spend on the kit, and I'm hoping that everyone else, like a lot of other people, did maybe similar things, maybe tried a new hobby or something, or tried a different thing. So I guess it's just my message of hope is. I don't know if I have a message of hope necessarily, but hopefully you maybe learned a new skill or learned something different or maybe made some changes in your life that you learned from, after, I think.
That was pretty sweet. I was trying to
Yeah.
think. I think it was Wyatt Slav who did something similar. You remember him?
Yeah, think he's from like around here. I think he's from like Niagara or something. I think he's from up the road. Like I think I know a few people that know him. I'm pretty sure. He's kind of like dyed blonde hair, kind of tattoos and stuff. Is that the guy I'm thinking of?
Yeah, there was that, and like he started off doing drums. Now he's doing like travel vlogs and everything too. So you got to switch
Yeah,
it up a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah. I think he's from like kind of local here. Like weirdly enough, yeah. He's from like right up the road.
It would be nice to get him on here. I would like to ask like why he gave up drum covers or doesn't do it like as much anymore because I think he does strictly travel vlogs. If that's all he
Oh
does.
wow, that's cool. Yeah, I mean I like traveling too. Less and less so. The older I get, the less into it I am. But years ago, I did like a lot of traveling. Like when I lived in England and stuff, I did. I was in a big phase of wanting to be on the road as much as I could, whether it was gigging or just traveling, seeing the sights. Now I'm kind of set in my ways. I like being home.
Yeah, I always thought it'd be like the other way around. It'd be like you want to get out more. The more older you get, the more you want to travel or see different parts of the world too. But I guess it varies between people. I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some people like, go through like anything. You kind of go through phases in life, right? Like I've gone through. When I was younger, I was like, I'd rather be out traveling than home, and now it's like the opposite. Like, to be honest, which is kind of unfortunate as a musician in some ways, but it's always about a balance. You want to find a balance, right?
Yeah, but I guess for the groups that you are part of right now, do you guys just tour in around Canada, or have you also trying to get more into the States and go back to Europe as well?
So right now, the Maiden tribute that I do, we just play like within Canada. That band's not super like we're gonna tour the whole world, and it's just a fun tribute that we do. So, but we've played like in like Quebec, the next province over. Basically anywhere we can kind of drive to from where we are within like 6-7 hours. But the Celtic band is that band's tours a lot. Like we do a lot in the States, tons. Um, so 2022 when I joined up with them was like a crazy busy year throughout the States. So and then did Ireland with them as well. So that band plays all over.
I would like to ask like how drunk they get. To be honest,
Sorry, what was that?
I would say how drunk do they get the Celtic group you're part of?
um, Depends on the day. I'm not a huge drinker myself, to be honest. I'm kind of I'll drink like a beer a day. So sometimes I end up being like a designated driver, which I'm totally fine with. Um, there's definitely is kind of like a culture with the Celtic thing. It's a lot of it's a old school like Irish kind of like drinking pub kind of vibe sometimes. So, but I wouldn't say any of those guys get like buckled out of any standard musician drunkenness. I would say.
Drink responsibly,
Yeah,
to say
yeah,
the
for
least.
sure. But there's definitely is kind of a culture in the Celtic world of drinking because it's like a pub kind of culture that you wouldn't necessarily see in like like a metal context or like a jazz. Like Maiden, people obviously drink while watching Maiden or whatever, but it's not necessarily about drinking. Whereas Celtic, a lot of the songs are even about drinking. Like the Steel City Rovers, they have a song called Guinness for Two, which is kind of like one of their kind of bigger songs, and it's about Guinness, drinking Guinness, celebrating like friends and family who have passed away. So there's kind of a drinking culture in it, which is kind of just traditional the way it's kind of always been.
I would say I've had a bad experience with like the dark Guinness. I like I like the traditional one, but I should say bad because it was like it got me sick or something like that too. It was just I never really dug it. That's the thing. I should say the dark Guinness. Like, yeah, I take the traditional one.
Yeah, it's not for everybody for sure. It's a heavy beer, right? So you don't want to drink like a lot of them, for sure. But I like having like one or two. When we played in Ireland, so Guinness tastes a lot better in Ireland. I think it's the water is better there. I don't know what it is, but it tastes better. And I remember when we went through Ireland, I remember kind of almost getting sick of it. I was like, oh, more of these. But I was having like 2 or 3 a day kind of thing, which is a lot for me. I don't really drink more than 1 or 2 a day. So for me to crank it up that much in Ireland, it was like I kind of almost got sick of it because it was so heavy. Like you said, it's not like you're drinking like a lighter beer, like a Corona, where you can drink, a lot of them and not. You kind of get bloated. It's like you're having a meal, Guinness.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny when you bring that up because I always remember Dave Mustaine from Megadeth when he would talk about like his trips way back in the day when he actually went to Ireland.
Yeah.
And he had so many of those because I guess they would put like a little smiley face on top of it. And I guess he had so many that somebody threw a coin while they were playing at a concert. I think he said it was Antrim. I think that's what it was called, the city where they were playing. And
Antwerp? You mean Belgium?
No, it was in Ireland. It was in Ireland.
Oh, in Ireland. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I think it was Antrim. I think that's the name it was called.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think I don't know if he was mispronouncing it, but it was along those lines. But anyway, after he got hit with the coin when he was playing his guitar and everything too, he walks out and he comes back, and this is during the days when the IRA was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, "Give Ireland back to the Irish. This is for the cause, anarchy in Antrim." And
really,
and then that's when like the crowd like it just splits apart, and you got the guards coming in with like the dogs and everything too. So they had to be transported, I guess, to their next destination in a bulletproof bus because of the fact that you had to use the IRA. So it was a bad experience with too much Guinness in your system.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a few controversial moments, like on stage and stuff. And there's loads of Dave Mustaine, freak out videos online and stuff. But I've never heard of that island story. That's pretty wild. Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff that happened not that long ago over there for sure. Actually, where I lived in England, Guildford, is that's where there's like a bombing at a pub in Guildford, actually, in the town where I lived, and it was they made a movie about it. I think it's In the Name of the Father. I think it's called. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
I don't think I have, but I think it does sound familiar. But anyway.
Yeah, it's like a big famous story, and that was in the town that I lived in England, Guildford.
It was actually from Loudwire because I guess it was a question that was brought up. And the funny thing was, he didn't remember anything because the next morning he asked, because he was seeing like David Ellison was like all pissed and everything too. He's like, "Dude, what's wrong?" And Dave just looks at him. He's like, "You don't remember anything that happened last night?"
Really?
And then he tells him the whole story. Like, we had to be transported on a bus because of what you said. So
he was that buckled. He didn't
even remember it.
Remember anything? Oh.
Okay, sorry, kind of froze there a little bit. Yeah, no, he did not remember anything. So, you gotta love those stories too, especially when in the '80s when drinking was part of your resume in order to be cool, that sort of thing too.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely kind of you had to do it to fit in, probably, right? It was kind of that's what the cool kids were doing.
That's what those trash kids and the jeans were doing. So
yeah.
I see.
Yeah,
it's good to see.
Those days are. Yeah, I've never been a huge drinker. I'm more of a drink responsible. I just can't handle the next day. Now, especially the older I get, the recovery is not what it used to be.
As the recovery gets longer and longer and longer. So I can see why.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly.
But it's all good though. So it's all good to see
Yeah.
you. Yeah. And I guess wish you best of luck on your tours. I guess obviously you could mention about some of the stuff you were going to be doing. This is upcoming April too. So we'll see what happens. So make sure you post it on the socials when you get around to it.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll let you know if we end up in near you. I think there might be some stuff later in the year in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure exactly where in Pennsylvania, but somewhere. It's a pretty big state, right? It's kind of like long, I think.
It's all like this way, but yeah, it's a good sized state. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'll definitely keep you posted if we have anything coming up in the area for sure.
All right, sounds good. So let's see. I think we breezed through the questions here pretty good. Talk about software and everything. All right. So we'll go ahead and jump to the fun questions right now. So ready?
Sure. Yeah.
So I know you were talking about the drinks earlier. So I guess what's your favorite non-alcoholic drink and favorite alcoholic drink?
I mean, I drink a lot of water. I think everyone does. Nothing compares to a nice cold glass of water. But I'm a big tea fan. I drink probably 2 or 3 cups of tea every day. So I'd say tea is my favorite non-alcoholic drink. And my favorite alcoholic drink is probably Guinness. Like a nice, Guinness poured in Ireland, in the glass and the whole experience. I'd say those are my go-tos.
I think they got you hooked on it now because of your experiences in Ireland too. So
Yeah, I definitely I did. I remember not liking Guinness like back in the day when I was young. I remember thinking it was okay, but it wasn't until I went to Ireland and in England, because there's a lot of Guinness in England as well, that I was like, ooh, it's a lot better.
I think there's a science where like your taste buds change every 7 years. I think like you hate one thing like maybe at one point, then at another point you end up loving it too. Because I think that was what it was with me with blue cheese.
Oh, like with like chicken wings and vegetables and stuff. You mean?
Yeah, more like the dipping sauce, I should say. I don't think
Yeah,
like
the dipping
standard
sauce.
blue cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like blue cheese as well, actually. Yeah.
You know what? A friend of mine always posts on like Facebook, ranch is less than blue cheese, or blue cheese is greater than ranch, that sort of thing. And I want to say I want to contend with it because I've had more ranch, to be honest too, even though I seem to be at least open to blue cheese. So unfortunately, I think I just mess with them every now and again. Be like, oh, fuck off, that sort of thing. So
Yeah, it depends. Depends what you're having, but there's definitely an argument. One's, the blue cheese with. I like the vegetables you get with chicken wings and the blue cheese. Kind of complements it well.
Well, that's true. So it's a double whammy, to be honest. So
yeah.
And what sort of tea is it? Is it like a herbal sort of style, or is it more like your standard Canadian tea?
No, so I drink just standard. I like I guess you call it orange pico. So my favorite brand is Yorkshire Gold tea, but I like PG Tips as well, which they're both like UK ones. I get them in like at the import store, the British import store. So it's like English tea. I like Earl Grey as well. I kind of have a cycle. I'll do like 1 Earl Grey a day, and I'll do 1 like Yorkshire Gold a day. Sometimes I'll have green tea or something like at night, like no caffeine or whatever. But just standard tea. A little bit of milk, no sugar.
Let's say, do you always like to keep it warm? Because is that normally how you're supposed to drink it?
Oh, that's a very controversial topic for sure. There's definitely. I learned that in England too, and the English are very. What would you call it? They're very like. They will defend their method of how to prepare tea to the death. I just personally do it right out of the kettle, so really hot. Let it steep for 2 or 3 minutes. Take out the tea bag, pour a little bit of milk in it. That's all I really do. It's always been my go-to method. But there's like hundreds of ways to do it, and you can argue about it. No, you got to let it steep for 30 seconds and then take it out and put salt in it or whatever the case. People will take it real seriously over there.
I think do too. Actually, I was in London a few years back, and that was before COVID. I think we did have little tea. It was like a little tea, and then they gave us like these little sandwiches too on like these. Like this tray was like about as high as like this, for instance.
Oh yeah.
And, oh man, it was very good. I would say that. So
Yeah.
I have respect for tea, even though I think trying to do the little pinky thing that they normally stereotypically say
Yeah.
that the British do, it's a lot harder. I need all fingers working right there. So
Yeah. Are you a coffee guy? Are you
no, I've had bad experiences with coffee. Unfortunately,
okay?
that's my mom's fault. So
Okay.
'cause I think it was before they had the coffee mugs with the lid on top, and
Yeah.
she was driving around with a regular coffee mug, and so you can picture how that went.
Oh no.
Nothing serious. Nothing serious. It just annoyed the hell out of me, to be honest. So
Yeah. That's fair. You probably have the same experience with tea if you spilled tea on yourself too, right?
you know what? She always seemed to drink tea when it was at home. So
Okay.
I never had the bad experiences with tea, fortunately.
Perfect. Yeah.
I think it might have just been taste in general, so I'm not too sure.
That's fair. Yeah. I don't like coffee at all. The taste of it. I've never been a fan of it. I do like the smell of it though. I don't know if you're like that at all.
Uh, depends on what they have. So maybe the smell of it would be like, good old fashioned coffee smell wakes me up in the morning.
Yeah, I do like the smell. I like coffee flavored things, like coffee cake or something like that. We have in Canada, we call them chocolate bars. I think you guys call them candy bars.
It's the same thing, really, but yeah.
Yeah, same thing. But we have a brand up here called Coffee Crisp, and there's probably very little actual coffee in it, but just the taste of it. It's one of my favorite chocolate bars to get. Do you have Coffee Crisp? I don't think you have them in the States.
I don't know where I live, but I can't speak for anywhere else in the States. I could say maybe. I mean, it's an extensive set of states. I mean, who knows who has it?
Yeah.
It's probably in like certain spots maybe. So I honestly couldn't tell you.
I think it's a Canada thing, but I might be wrong. But yeah, but I love coffee flavored things. It's great. I love it.
It's like it's almost like that quote from Apocalypse Now. It's be like instead of I love the smell of napalm in the morning, it's like I love the smell of coffee in the morning. So
Yeah, exactly. Even though if I like hate the taste of it,
yeah.
I don't get it.
So for the next question, the next two kind of deal with basically drum covers. So I guess was there ever a song that was too tough for you to play? Did you either give up or did you come back after a while to finish?
Of the drum covers I've done,
Yeah, or I guess even ones you're practicing right now.
I mean, they're all they all have every song has their challenges. Um, have I had to come back to it? Not that I can think of. So like for me to like when I record drum covers and stuff, by that point I've usually like rehearsed it a lot beforehand, like a lot of times. So like for example, if we go to like if I go to the Blackbird Sound to record something, I've already rehearsed it a bunch of times, so I'm pretty prepared with it. I can usually do it in like one or two takes. Um, Sometimes I have trouble with the Maiden ones because a lot of people don't know this, but Maiden is never actually recorded to a click track. So, like their tempos can go up really up and down on their stuff. So, and to me, I think that adds to their music because the whole band is kind of like there's a dynamic to it. Some like they'll slow the verse down and speed it up in the chorus. So sometimes that can be tricky to follow because it's not like recorded like to a click like perfectly. It's kind of up and down, and they're playing it at that moment like how they felt it at that time. So sometimes you kind of run into that can be a tricky thing to replicate because if you record a song to a click and it's 120 beats per minute, like, and that's how you play it every time, you kind of lock in. But sometimes the Maiden stuff it can be tricky to record covers of because it's so up and down tempo wise. So there's been a few of those I've had to do a few times to get it right.
I think Slayer was the same way. I think they would say it was more on their Rain and Blood album.
Yeah.
I think Dave said he wasn't playing the click track at all. He was just improvise whatever Carrie and Jeff were doing.
Totally. And then with Slayer, it's a lot more. That band's way more like balls to the wall, like fast. With Maiden, it's like they slow parts down, like to add emphasis to the guitar solo. Like even like you mentioned earlier, Revelations. That song's pretty up and down tempo wise because it's like there's chill parts in that song, like nice kind of singing parts, and then there's kind of the faster parts in the middle and stuff, like where the guitar solos are and stuff. Really, it goes up, really speeds up and down. There's a lot of dynamic to it, so it can be tricky to get that feel for sure for the Maiden stuff, I would say.
That was from their Peace of Mind album, right? Revelations.
Yes. Yes, pretty sure. Yeah.
I would say the best one that I've always dug was the Power Slave one, where it starts off like usually pretty fast and kind of keeps that nice little tempo going. Then right in the middle, that's when it goes right into like the first solo and everything too, and jumps around. I've always loved that one.
Yeah, that's actually one of the ones I was thinking of, actually, because I've recorded it. Spoiler alert, I've recorded a cover of it. I haven't put it out yet, but I have it recorded. That's one of the ones I recorded with that setup, that Blackbird sound there. Yeah, it kind of like, it's pretty mid-tempo, and then like you said, the guitar solo comes in really chill. Then very dynamic song, very up and down tempo-wise. So that's a tricky one for sure. And then the big drum fill, that's always tricky. Because also too, I find like, because part of this comes from me too. Like when we play with the Maiden tribute band, I don't necessarily do it like exactly the same. We kind of change a few little things here and there, and just the feel. Because you got to figure too, like when they recorded all those songs, they're recording in the studio, where you're focusing on the recording and getting it the right way on tape. But when you're playing live, you're also focusing on like the audience. So sometimes if there's a good crowd or whatever, you can kind of, songs end up being a little bit quicker than normal just because there's energy in the room. Whereas when you're in the studio, it's just the other members of the band or whatever with you. Sometimes not even then, right? So sometimes it's I'm used to playing it live with the Maiden tribute, Maiden Canada, but so when I go back and record a Maiden drum cover, it's like, oh, okay, it's a little different than we play it, right? Like in the so you're familiar with that song, like the drum fills part?
You mean like near the end there, where it's like kind of
yeah, there's like a bunch of drum, kind of like a miniature drum solo thing.
Basically, yeah.
So what I do in that part, so it's like there's like da-da, and then all the drums, da-da, the three shots. On the last couple notes of that, I kind of slow it back down to get back into the verse, like live, just for the band more than anything. Like, whereas in the recording, it's pretty much fast. All the big drum fill parts is like pretty speedy, and then they all just come back to the verse after, like abruptly, kind of. If you listen to the recording, so live, it's a little change I've made live to kind of just get the band back down to where the verse is. And you can, I think I have a video of us, like a drum cam video of us doing that one live. Power Slave.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, you'll see that it's on there, like slowing the band down a little bit after the fills, because it just ramps up, right? There's guitar solos before you, and that solo was awesome. That the Power Slave guitar solo there is like amazing. So the crowd always gets into that song. So it's
I would say two guitar solos, because I think they always do one, and the other guy fills in his little section there too.
Exactly, that whole section really builds up a lot. So by the end of it, it's like pretty ramped up, and I love those harmonies in that part. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely too. That's why I always love cranking it up when it comes on too. Say It's Just High was another one I've always loved listening to as well.
I love that song. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. We usually start our set with that one, or we started the set a lot before with Aces High. That's a fun one to play.
I really hope they open with that one, because then that would be so killer. So probably not, because I think you said they're kind of moving on to like Somewhere in Time, and then like whatever their newest album was.
Yeah, so it's that kind of hybrid. They're doing like the Back to the Future kind of like Blade Runner sort of look for the Somewhere in Time stuff, and then the ninja kind of senjutsu thing. So I think they start, not to spoil it or anything, but I think they're starting with more the Blade Runner kind of look.
I guess we'll have to see. Though it would be nice if they play like all their hits from like throughout the years. So it would be nice.
Yeah, they have like they always play like Fear of the Dark. Pretty sure it's on the set list there. I can't remember, but which is funny. And so our first ever gig with that band, we played. So Maiden played Toronto, 45 minutes away from me, and they played Hamilton. And we did a gig after each show Like we did a gig at a bar really close to the Toronto show, and then we did a gig at the bar really close to the Hamilton show. So the people came right from the Maiden gig to watch our gig. And it's funny, you think Fear of the Dark being one of the big hits that they always play and all that, you think they'd want to hear different songs, like when we're playing, because they just watched it, an hour before that at the actual gig. But they always want to hear the Trooper. Like there's always an energy that comes into the room when you start the Trooper or Fear of the Dark or one of those big songs, because it's just what people want to hear, right? So, yeah, I always find that funny.
They always want to hear like the big hits and everything too. So
yeah, even though they just heard the big hits an hour before, they come to our gig after, and they want to hear those
Trooper
same
Part
songs
2.
again. Yeah. Exactly, and we try to do like a mix with that band because we're big Maiden nerds ourselves. We do a bit of a mix where we do a lot of the hits and stuff, but then we also do like some B-sides and maybe songs that aren't as known. So if you're like a casual Maiden fan, you'll hear the hits, you'll hear the big songs, and if you're like a diehard Maiden fan who knows all the ins and outs, you'll be like, oh, they're doing that song, yeah. So it's kind of it's a bit of a balancing act for sure, because you can just do all the hits, but then you almost kind of alienate like the diehard fans in a way, because they've heard the Trooper a million times, they've heard Fear the Dark a million times, they want to hear maybe some different things, but it's a balancing act.
Can't appease everybody, so it's unfortunate, but so badass. All right, but fingers crossed. I really hope they do play Fear the Dark. That would really make my night.
I think they will. Maybe they should.
Right. But you know what? I didn't actually notice they had I think they always post like a set list ahead of time. So maybe you get the idea because I think that's how it was with me when I went to go see Deftones and Gojira. I think somebody actually had a set list up on their phone where they were able to just go onto a site and see what songs they were going to play. I was like,
it's called setlist.fm, I think. I'm on there all the time. If there's a tour coming to town or whatever, I'm like, oh, what are they playing on this tour?
I think it was that. It might have been something else, but I'm not too sure. But we'll see what happens. But I guess, which one would you say has been your favorite drum cover so far? Or I guess one you probably have planned that you're probably going to love?
My favorite drum cover? That's a good question. Like my favorite or the one that I think turned out the best?
I guess one you really were into, I guess, if that helps. One that probably got the most energy, that sort of thing.
I think probably if I had to pick one out of all of them, I would say I did a cover of the song Toss the Feathers by The Course, which is like an Irish band, they're all like siblings, like three sisters and a brother, and they did their version of like this traditional song called Toss the Feathers. I did a cover of their version of that, which the original drummer is on the track is Simon Phillips, super famous drummer, played on tons of recordings. I'd say that one turned out extremely well. I'm really happy with that one. So I'd say that one is probably my favorite if I had to pick one. Toss the Feathers by The Course.
First time I heard about that one. That's actually pretty cool. I think I heard Simon Phillips a couple times, so I guess he's jumped around a good bit.
Yeah, he's played with like everybody. I don't even know where to start his discography. He's played with like tons of bands.
Just can never settle down in one group, I guess, but I guess it should be expected.
Yeah, he's like a session guy, and he played with I think he played with Toto at one point. He played with Judas Priest on a Judas Priest album. Like pretty extensive discography for sure. Definitely should check him out for sure.
That sounds good. All right, and go back to Black Bridge, for instance. I guess. So where did you get the name?
So that one. So I think I mentioned it earlier, but Jarrett moved out to the country from the city where I live in the city. We both grew up in the city. He moved out to the country to a small town called Waterford, Ontario. And we were looking for like a name for the studio. And we wanted it to be something local about Waterford. So we're looking at like local landmarks. It's a small town, so there's not a lot going on. But they have like this kind of in the center of the town, there's the big train bridge that they've converted all pedestrianized and stuff. It's called the Black Bridge, and it's kind of like the symbol of the town. It's one of the famous, quote unquote, famous landmarks in Waterford. So we're like, you know what? Let's name it after the bridge, Black Bridge Sound. And it's funny that in the videos of Black Bridge Sound, we have the signs behind me it's got the bridge, the symbol, and the logo Black Bridge Sound, and it's actually in white. So a lot of people comment, they're like, why is it called Black Bridge Sound when the bridge is white? But it's actually just called Black Bridge Sound because of the train bridge is just called the Black Bridge. And the bridge is not even black itself, it's like rust colored. But
I'll say probably to do a white background and then just have the bridge black then.
yeah, it just didn't look good. Like we kind of looked when we got those signs made, it was like we could have done a white sign with the black logo, but it just popped better, like the black sign with the white writing. It just looks better.
Yeah, I know what you mean too. I actually got one back here. It's my little recording studio.
Yeah.
So you can't really see it, but
yeah,
I know what you mean.
Yeah. It's a creative, like which one looked better. But we didn't even think about that at the time. We just instantly put the logo on the thing. But yeah, it's kind of we get a few comments about that actually.
Yeah, it'll be your trolls and your haters, that sort of thing. So
yeah, you get that sometimes. It's all good.
yeah, hey, well, feel free to answer. It's at least a comment, so it's something at least.
Yeah.
Right. And for the last of the fun questions, what is currently your favorite song or a song you've been listening to a good bit recently?
Oh, geez. I would say, so right now I'm in a huge Oasis kick. Lasted a while. And I love the song Don't Look Back in Anger. I'm sure you know that one there. It's I think it's one of the top 3 best songs, pound for pound, best songs of all time. So I'd say I'm really into that song. And even in the last couple days, I never listened to the last Oasis album before they split up. But there's a song on there, and it's the last song on their last album called Soldier On. It's kind of a creepy song. I've been listening to that one a lot lately because it's kind of like before they split up, it's the last song that they released, I guess. So it's kind of like a creepy tune. It's really cool. So I'd say Don't Look Back in Anger and Soldier On, both by Oasis, right now are my top tunes.
It's just one of those, like, I was going to say, is that one of your phases you're just going through right now, or is it just because you want to try to do drum covers on those ones?
I probably will cover them, but it's just whenever I put on Spotify or something, like if I'm just listening, for whatever reason I just put on Oasis right now. It's really been diving deep into the Oasis lately.
Searching for that oasis in the desert, as we like to say.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all good. But I did notice your shirt, Star Wars. So I guess are you a big Star Wars nerd?
Huge, yeah. Big time Star Wars fan.
I'll tell you, I used to have the VHS tapes way back in the day. That was the original trilogy. And
I had those too, yeah.
I was trying to figure out, because I think the ones I had, they always start off with George Lucas and I guess everybody else kind of talking about like how they approach this and that with like maybe the scenes, for instance. I think it was kind of giving you background information on like how they did this and that at the time. It was like late 70s and early 80s too. So, I mean, you had to kind of, I think these VHS tips, I think they came out a little bit later. It's kind of like those extended cuts, or I don't know what you call them, because each one started off with George Lucas and them like talking about like, how we did this and that when we were shooting the scene, for instance. So
yours were this was on VHS.
It was on VHS, yes.
Oh, interesting. I never seen that version of it. I had the DVDs. I still have them, but you can go in and click like special features and stuff. But I've never seen that on VHS. That's interesting. Yeah,
it wasn't. Well, you really had no choice. You had to always listen to it whenever you started from the beginning. So
yeah.
Cool. But I didn't give Empire Strikes Back enough credit. I was always New Hope and Return of the Jedi fan, to be honest.
Yeah? I love those original 3. I like they're awesome. They all have their moments for sure. I probably like Return of the Jedi best if I had to pick one. It's kind of dark, pretty epic scenes.
That's true, yeah. I would say
I like the prequels too, to be honest. I grew up in the era of the prequels, like when Phantom Menace came out. I would have been 9 years old. So that was like, I know a lot of people kind of don't necessarily like them as much. That was like my era. Pretty cool. It's just because the excitement. Oh, there's a new Star Wars movie. Like all your friends at school talking about it, kind of thing. It was good memories.
Yeah, there was that. Actually, I was the same way as well. I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna go watch this. And
Yeah, absolutely.
you know what ended up being like really kind of a bummer was when people on Facebook would comment on like certain things about this and that. Like for instance, in A New Hope, when they're talking about they had to shoot those whatever, we just call them rockets, for instance, into that fuel safe or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was like they knew that it was there because why would they have turrets there, to be honest? So it was like it wasn't like it was some sort of secret anymore, or you needed Rogue One to tell you that there was a sabotage effort. So
Yeah, it was kind of like a plot hole that they kind of like. I thought it was really cool how they did that with Rogue One, where they kind of explained like it was there on purpose. I thought that was really cool.
that one I would say was the darkest out of all of them too. So
Rogue One?
yeah,
Yeah, I thought that movie was excellent. A lot of the Disney stuff they've done, some of it I'm not a huge fan of, if I'm being totally honest, but Rogue One I thought was phenomenal.
yeah, sequels take a lot of heat these days, even though they've already accrued $1 billion from each one. So it's almost like, what's your point at this point? Trying to say like, oh, it's such a bummer too. Like they just got $1 billion. You just gave them your money. So it's almost like, what's your point?
Oh yeah, I went and saw every one of them in theaters, but I don't love them, let's just say that.
I was the same way too, but I figured, they already did it, so let's just see how this ends. So
Yeah, exactly.
right. But we'll have to see, I guess, what else they got in mind, because I haven't seen that new one, Ahsoka, yet, or I guess even I forget which other ones they had. I know I saw like 2 seasons of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, Mandalorian's awesome. Yeah,
It was good, yeah.
Mandalorian's really good. I liked Kenobi as well. It wasn't perfect, but I'm kind of nitpicky when it comes to Star Wars. I've spent a lot of years like reading stuff, reading the books, and reading a lot of the book, and just looking into like a lot of like my feed on YouTube is like Star Wars stuff, like people talking about Star Wars, like that channel Star Wars Theory. I don't know if you ever saw that guy. Watch some of his videos and stuff where he talks about really dives deep into like the lore of Star Wars.
In other words, he's pretty much the nerd of the nerds of Star Wars, basically.
He's like, yeah, Star Wars Theory. He's probably the biggest Star Wars YouTube channel, I would think. I mean, but,
Hey, gotta do something.
Hey, yeah, it's I watch a lot of his videos just because they'll talk about something interesting. Oh, cool. Then you watch one and it ends up in your feed all the time.
Yeah. Actually, I would say a lot more of like the comics, for instance, that kind of delved into Vader. And,
Yeah.
there's more like little clips here or there where he's going into badass mode or something like that. So
Yeah.
other times though, like you could see like I don't say dichotomy. I was gonna say maybe a little bad relationship between him and Palpatine. So
Yeah, that's one thing I would like to see represented a bit more, like maybe in like a series or like an actual just Vader movie. I would love to see a bit more of that. Like just Vader just being bad for hours and hours, I think would be really cool.
I think that's what they want to do with Kenobi. Maybe jump around a little bit there. That would be interesting. Maybe that would be a good idea to just kind of jump around with that, for instance.
I would love that. Yeah, like I thought Kenobi wasn't perfect. Some of the characters are some of the things were a little not necessarily the best in that, but I thought like Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, like they both played their roles like extremely well, and I think there's definitely more that could be done with those characters for sure. Like see like you said before, see what Vader explore his relationship with Palpatine, and explore like what Obi-Wan was up to in those times. I would love to see another Kenobi season. I think it ended really well with like how they like their last interaction. I don't think if they do another series of that, I don't think they should meet again, if that makes any sense. Like I think Kenobi should do his own thing and then Vader should do his own thing, because they set up like they bridged the gap between like where episode 4, where A New Hope starts, where like Obi-Wan hasn't seen Vader in a while, kind of thing. Like I don't think they should keep seeing each other, but I would love to see more series of them each on their own. Like I'd love to see more of what Kenobi was up to on Tatooine and see more of what Vader was up to. Him and Palpatine.
I was gonna say I don't think Kenobi really does much on Tatooine, to be honest, unless he goes anywhere
No,
else.
he took off pretty much right at the start, and but yeah, which is it's kind of weird for him like to leave the planet, but
Hey,
but
we'll see what
I'd love to
happens.
see more of it. Yeah, I'd love to see more.
Hopefully they'll get some ideas from the comics too, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, Mike, we're reaching the end of my podcast right here. We've actually talked for a good hour and 20 some minutes right here, and we're down to
Okay,
one
yeah,
more question.
sure.
But I guess before we jump into it, did you have any questions for me or any final words you want to say before we jump into it?
Not really. No, I'm just thanks for having me on here. It's always love having a chat, and you've asked some cool questions I didn't really like expect, so it was cool. It was kind of neat to for a few different questions and just generally have a chat about random things. It's been fun.
Yeah, I try. That's everything too. At least that's how I like to approach the interviews as well.
Yeah.
So, so for the last question right here, given what COVID has done, obviously you've been pretty fortunate, haven't really had any bad issues or anything like that. Looks like your family was all good and everything too. So, I guess for those who weren't as fortunate, what sort of message of hope could you give to musicians and people out there as we try to move forward in a post-COVID world?
Um, I don't know if I have too much of a message of hope. I mean, to anyone that's experienced any kind of like loss, whether that's financial or people in their life, throughout COVID, that it's obviously you feel for that, but it's also um, in a way it's like you kind of sometimes you can maybe like learn things in that kind of moment where it's like for me, like when I mentioned before, I kind of rediscovered my passion for drumming quite a bit because I had a bit more time to spend on the kit, and I'm hoping that everyone else, like a lot of other people, did maybe similar things, maybe tried a new hobby or something, or tried a different thing. So I guess it's just my message of hope is, I don't know if I have a message of hope necessarily, but hopefully you maybe learned a new skill or learned something different, or maybe made some changes in your life that you learned from, after. I think.
Spoke like a true prodigy.
So I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I know it's a little tough. Sometimes people are able to answer it. Sometimes it's a little bit of a thought process too. I would say
Awesome.
it's always along the lines of like the don't give up, that sort of thing too. Even though it sounds cliche, it's meant to work because I mean,
Yeah,
giving up is too easy. That's the thing.
for sure. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how it is, in your neck of the woods there, but I feel like things have bounced back by now because we're a few years out now, and things are pretty normal again. I would say. Like I think everyone's recovered pretty well. I think.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. It still lingers there, but it's at least water on the bridge for the most part. So it's or at least hope so at some point. So we'll see what happens.
For sure. For sure.
So, Mike, we've reached the end of my podcast right here. We talked for a good almost hour and 30 minutes, but I think with editing, it's going to be a little shorter. But regardless,
Yeah. Awesome.
did you have any final words or any shout outs you want to give before we close?
Not off the top of my head. No. Just yeah. Thanks for having me, and it's been good chatting and hanging out and all that. And I'll check out your video of Fear of the Dark. If you can send me a link over, I'll check it out for sure.
I'll send you a couple links because actually
Yeah, please.
my most proudest one was Death Angels, The Ultra Violence.
Oh,
So,
cool. Yeah,
yeah.
Please do send me them over. I'll check them out. Absolutely.
All right, I'll send it to you through Messenger. But what other social media can people check you out on? I guess what sort of shows you got in store, or I guess whatever you could share because I know you can't disclose everything.
Yeah, yeah. So social media, I have I'm on Instagram, YouTube, like my Facebook page, Mike Cotton Drummer. Um, that's pretty much where I post all my stuff. I don't have like a website, like a specific website, but those are my main kind of socials that I mostly on Facebook. It's probably Facebook and YouTube are the big ones for me, I would say. So yeah, yeah, Mike Cotton Drums is the handle.
You know what? Actually, it's Mike Cotton Drummer, right, for your YouTube channel.
I think it's Mike Cotton Drums.
Okay. I was gonna say I owed you an apology because I was like, oh crap, was it Mike Cotton Drummer? I wasn't sure.
Oh, that's all good. Just type it in, it'll come up. Yeah, Mike
Okay.
Cotton Drums. I think. Pretty
Okay.
sure.
They'll make it work. So they'll find you one way or the other. So that's all
For
good.
sure, yeah.
All right. So everyone, my guest today was Mike Cotton, aka Mike Cotton Drums, on his YouTube and Facebook and everything too. Make sure to go hit him up on the socials. Go subscribe to his channel. And anywhere in Canada, or I guess anywhere in the States where this guy's coming, go check him out. This guy does not disappoint. He kicks some major ass. So that's all good. So, Mike, thank you again so much again for coming on. Stay safe. Stay safe. Stay tuned, y'all.
Thanks so much for having me.